Clemson taking down Pittsburgh 24-20 was basically an elimination game in the ACC. Let's go over the highest grade players, starting off with the Clemson Tigers. TJ Parker, the edge defender, I'll talk about him in just a second, 91.5 grade for him. RJ Mickens, the safety, 77.8. Barrett Carter, the linebacker, 77.1. Antonio Williams, the wide receiver, 76.6. Jaheim Lawson, the edge defender, 75.3. And Cade Klubnik with an 80.1 grade in the win. For Pittsburgh, their highest grade players, linebacker Rasheem Biles was their highest grade player at 81.1. Donovan McMillan, the safety, 77.9. Another linebacker, Brandon George, 77.3. And another linebacker, Braylon Lovelace, at a 75.7. Three of their four highest grade players, Dawn, were linebackers in this game. With the other one, Nate Matlack, 74.8. So 4 of the 5 were in the front 7 for Pitt in this one. And Nate Yarnell, the backup quarterback in this one, because Eli Holstein was out with an injury. Nate Yarnell with a 73 grade in the loss to Clemson. Dawn, for you, what was the stat that told the story?
Yeah, I think as we got especially later in this game, and even though they made the comeback and they were down 10 and then they went up 20-17, Pittsburgh, and just the number of self-inflicted wounds in this game. I mean, 13 penalties totaling 100 yards, 6 of those penalties in the fourth quarter. That goal line sequence where they were 3rd and goal, I believe from the 2, and then they had, a false start, and then a delay of game, and then another false start, and it killed that drive, and they had to kick a field goal instead of scoring a touchdown, made it 17-10. And then it just, the clock management on the last drive, Pat Narduzzi didn't know whether they got a first down on one play or not. There was a half yard short, and the clock was running, and there wasn't a timeout called because he thought he got a first down. Then you had, Nate Yarnell, you mentioned it. He made 2 big-time throws. Neither of them were caught, right? They had 2 turnovers in the game. I mean, it just became this, especially in the fourth quarter, this comedy of errors from Pittsburgh. And then you mentioned, the game-winning touchdown from Cade Klubnik. Just nobody behind a blitz that they had sent, and Klubnik just goes right through him on a draw. And
bad angle from the safety,
50 yards, and a bad angle from the safety. And look, you always earn your wins, and Clemson earned the win, and they made one more play than Pitt did to win this game, especially with the Klubnik rushing touchdown at the end. But Pitt beat themselves in this game. They had every opportunity to win this game, and I know they fell behind 17-7. But this fourth quarter, to me, just became about how many different ways can Pitt trip up over themselves? And that's I thought that's where it went. And there's a couple of guys. There's some guys for Clemson, again, who played really well. I don't want to take anything away from them, but Pitt had every opportunity to win this game, and they didn't.
That goal line sequence in the fourth quarter was insane.
That was crazy.
It's one of the crazier things I've ever seen.
You're on the 1 yard line, and you go, I think it was delay of game, false start, delay of game.
Yeah.
Something like 3 pre-snap penalties. You go
from the 1 to the 15-yard
line. You can't beat a team like Clemson doing things like that.
Yeah.
When you're at the 1, and they had all the momentum going. Yarnell was making throws. They had all the momentum before that, and that kind of killed it a little bit. And they still found a way to get a lead. And it just represents just, again, 13 penalties for 100 yards just kills you.
Just going from the 1 to the 16 without running a play is just insane.
Yeah.
That's as bad as it gets, honestly, for Pitt in this one. Dawn, my statistical story is that Cade Klubnik accounted for all but 17 offensive yards in this game for Clemson. He was the only source of offense overall for the Tigers, both on the air and on the ground. 72 rushing yards, obviously that game-winning touchdown to go along with 288 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, 3 big-time throws, no turnover-worthy plays. Actually tied a career high for big-time throws for Cade Klubnik. And also, obviously, tied career low with 0 turnover-worthy plays as well. Cade Klubnik was outstanding in this win over Pitt. And really, Dawn, a guy that you talked about being key for Clemson to win this game, Phil Maffa. How about this stat? Ready? Negative 1.3 yards before contact per carry. Negative 1.3 for Phil Maffa. He had 17 rushing yards, and he had 39 yards after contact. He had more than double of yards after contact than his actual rushing yards. He had negative 22 yards before contact. Dawn, 229% of his yards came after contact. 229%.
That doesn't even register. That doesn't even make sense.
I remember you and I were watching in my apartment. We were looking through the stats. I was like, dude, this makes no sense.
Well,
we watched it, and they blitzed every play.
Right, and I was just going to say that with Pitt. And again, I thought it was going to be the right idea, run right at them, right?
Yeah.
But Pitt decided, Okay, no. They blitzed. It felt like they blitzed every first down.
Yeah.
Every first down, there was 6 guys just coming screaming, and they were like, no, we're actually just not going to let you do that.
Yeah.
You're going to beat us with Cade Klubnik.
Yeah.
Fine. And you know what? They chose that fate, and it darn near worked. I mean, it's not, he did at times beat him with his arm, and obviously the big draw at the end, but it did work for a lot of this game. And there was a heavy stretch in the second half of this. Wasn't it the 7 at the end? That was the only points Clemson scored in the second half. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, it worked. You blitz on first down. They made Klubnik beat them, and he did. And again, Pitt tripped over themselves a lot. But, that was the funniest part. Is they're just all out blitzing every first down. Yeah, they're going to dare Clemson to throw on first down. It was hilarious.
We had to watch because I was like, there's no way that number's correct. Like, we got to maybe talk to our graders and be like, okay, we got to fix this because this is not. And they're like, no, they're right. Like, he was getting hit in the backfield every single play. It was absurd. 17 total rushing yards for Phil Maffa, but still 39 yards after contact. Just makes absolutely no sense. And that's how good Pitt's D-line was at hitting him in the backfield, honestly. But, Dalton, for you, the most impressive part of this victory for Clemson.
And you mentioned Klubnik had a great game, but I'll tell you what, every great quarterback needs a really good performance from a receiver. Antonio Williams gave it to him in this game. He talked 13 catches for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the receiving grade would be higher than 75.8. Did have 2 drops, but 2 drops among 17 targets. He was their passing game, honestly. Antonio Williams at Clemson at times this year has had trouble finding guys stepping up at wide receiver, but they found one in this game in Williams. A number 0 in the slot had a really big day and was a big reason they won this game.
True sophomore, right?
Let me see. I thought he was in his 3rd year.
He might be in his 3rd year. You might be right about that. But yeah, still a young player, and that's a redshirt sophomore, I think. So yeah. So that's a guy that they definitely because he only played 4 games last year, I think, maybe due to injuries. So yeah, he's a redshirt sophomore for them. That going to be big for them next year, honestly. My other guy, though, Dalton, is a true sophomore, TJ Parker, the edge defender for them. Career high 91.6 grade against Pitt. He had 4 sacks against the Panthers with another 2 quarterback hits, 8 pressures, and another 5 pass rush wins where he didn't record a pressure either. So he was dominant as a pass rusher, also had a tackle for loss and 2 run defense stops in the run game as well. Pitt's offensive line had sub 50 grades in pass blocking and run blocking, and TJ Parker is a major reason for that. He was utterly unblockable against the Panthers, and it's a guy that we probably should know for the 2026 NFL draft because he had a great freshman year last year as well. And I know Peter Woods gets a lot of the love because of how good he was last year, but TJ Parker is also a really good player in that Clemson D-line.
That's still a hard team to block when they're on, and that's a really young group that we're going to be looking at again next year.
Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.